right, so significantly less testimony from this witness. Seemed like he had much less contact with the defense, but some concerning things in there as well. Court actually right after that had a quick sidebar, went into recess. They'll continue tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we'll have our cameras in there, of course. All right, let's bring back in our guest to discuss, former prosecutor, criminal and civil defense attorney Randolph Rice. Randolph, I want to talk about a little bit what we heard. Number one, this whole sequestration issue. Both witnesses seem to have been getting updates from the Department of Justice in violation of what was a sequestration order. Doesn't seem like either one of them had any knowledge of. Interesting that the Department of Justice would keep updating them. What did you make of all that?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm kind of trying to figure out why the DOJ is actually updating them with this information. You know, sequestration orders typically only apply if you know that you're sequestered. So, you know, if you don't know that you're actually sequestered, there's really no order that you can be under. But why the DOJ kept updating them, it just doesn't make sense. My one guess would be maybe they were hoping or thinking that they wanted to get an alternative opinion to the previous testimony. That's my only guess.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember that they got involved in this because they were called in to investigate the case themselves. And that's why they hired these guys initially, or they were, commissioned by the DOJ. So again, they didn't really necessarily have, any horse in the race. So it's a little bit surprising. Also, something came out about, and this is not, and you let me know if this is uncommon or not, but you get an expert witness and before they go to the airport, the defense says, hey, we're having lunch over here, come on over, spends a little time in a room, family happens to be there, there's going to be some conversation. Is that something that's problematic, let's say at trial when he testifies? And I'd imagine the state can now bring that out and suggest maybe there's something going on behind the scenes.
No, it seems pretty innocuous. And it's not unusual for an expert to come in contact with maybe part of the trial team or even part of the family or the client themselves. So I didn't really find that to be unusual, and I don't think it's going to affect them in any way. Again, I think that the state is a bit grasping here at straws, trying to somehow keep these experts out because it's bad for them. This is not good for the prosecution.
Yeah, and talking about that once more, this idea that if they're allowed to testify, which again, I think they will, because it sounds like the judge, as he was leaving, said, hey, if you can get that report done before May 7th, that would be fantastic. She wants to get a look at it. And I would imagine, again, the report's going to say basically the same thing, that at least according to their calculations and their study, this was not a case where the victim was hit by an SUV. And again, without that, Randolph, where does the state go? They seem to be relying much more on the science this time, the Cellbrite. We're talking about the black box from the SUV. Where do they go if this information gets in front of the jury again?
Well, this becomes a battle of the experts like we see in many cases in the past, is that which expert does the jury believe more? Who is more credible? Whose story lines up better with the argument that either the state is making or the defense is making? And again, it's not going to be, I don't think these experts from ARCCA are going to be the end-all be-all, but I think they're one more part of the argument for both sides.
Yeah, I would agree. They're going to have their expert, I'm sure, come in and say the opposite, that, in fact, it does look like an SUV was involved. All right, Randolph Rice, thank you so much for joining us tonight. As always, it's been a pleasure. Folks, stick around because coming